For centuries, humanity has been taught to look outside itself for power. We search for answers in books, systems, institutions, philosophies, history, and in others. We study the achievements of great minds. We examine the rise and fall of civilizations. We seek guidance from experts and authorities. And while knowledge has undeniable value, there exists a question so profound that it challenges the very foundation of how most people understand reality. What if the greatest source of power has never been outside of us at all? What if the force that shapes our lives is not something we discover, but something we continuously express? Albert Einstein's most remarkable statement, which is "imagination is more important than knowledge," has a greater impact in our life than we think it has. At first glance, the statement sounds poetic, inspirational, perhaps even exaggerated. But the deeper one reflects upon it, the more radical it becomes. Knowledge concerns what has already been known. It is gathered from the past. It records what has been observed, measured, remembered, and accepted. But imagination is different. Imagination concerns possibility. It reaches beyond the boundaries of what currently exists. The word imagination itself has become scattered across countless meanings. Some associate imagination with fantasy. Some think of it as dream, hallucination, creativity, storytelling, or make-believe faculty of human being. The word has been stretched so widely that its deeper significance is often overlooked. Yet beneath all of these definitions lies something extraordinary. Imagination, respectfully, can be considered as the picturing power of the mind, the constructive principle, the creative faculty, and the ability to mentally experience something before it physically exists. And according to one of the most profound spiritual insights ever expressed, imagination is not merely something you possess, it is what you are. Pause and consider that carefully. Most people view imagination as a tool they occasionally use. But think about how much of daily life is governed by imagination. Every fear is imagination. It is the mental projection of what might happen. Every hope, expectation, anticipation, and assumption, all are imagination. Even the way you interpret another person's words is filtered through imagination. Most people never learn how to use this marvelous power for their welfare. The problem is not that they don't imagine. It is that most people imagine unconsciously. People of ignorance don't direct their imagination. They are being directed by it. Their fears imagine failure. Their doubts imagine rejection. Their insecurities imagine limitation. And because these inner images are accepted repeatedly, they begin shaping perception itself. Many great thinkers have argued that imagination is the fundamental reality behind all appearances. They suggest that everything humanity calls reality is, in some way, an expression of imagination. Think of it. Every discovery, every invention, and every human achievement first emerges in human imagination before it materializes as a fact in the world. And yet, despite its immense importance, imagination remains one of the most misunderstood powers within us. Before there was a future, there was an imagination of it. The visible world is not separate from imagination. It is imagination expressed. The world is a mirror which reflects the pictures we hold in our imagination. Not a mirror reflecting our face, but a mirror reflecting our dominant assumptions, the stories we tell ourselves, and the identities we consistently inhabit. This is why people become what they consistently imagine themselves to be, not occasionally or during moments of temporary motivation, but consistently. The athlete imagines victory before victory arrives. The entrepreneur imagines possibilities where others see obstacles. The leader imagines influence before influence is visible. The world calls the final result reality, but reality is often the last stage of a process that began in imagination. This is why imagination is not idle fantasy. Fantasy entertains, drifts, and escapes reality, but imagination creates. Now, if you want to transform your life, you must develop a proper understanding of how to use your imagination. A person who attempts to change his environment without changing his imagination is like a person trying to change his reflection in the mirror without changing himself. No matter how much effort you apply to the image in the mirror, the reflection remains loyal to its source. The reflection cannot lead, it follows. Likewise, reality often follows the images accepted within our consciousness. But there is a proper mechanism for this imagination. This is where many people misunderstand the process. Most people spend their lives thinking of what they want, but very few learn to think from what they want, and that difference changes everything. Making mental pictures of success means observing success from a distance, but making mental pictures from success means experiencing life as though success has already become your state of being. Imagining freedom means seeing freedom somewhere ahead, but imagine being free. Imagining from the free state of being means making decisions from the feeling of already being free, because creation occurs not by endlessly staring at a destination, but by entering it in imagination. The future you desire must be as though it is a present reality in your imagination. That is the principle. And once you start using this principle, you must reject the suggestions of the world around you, because the world you see is not necessarily the cause. We see most people allow appearances to dictate their imagination and consequently their life. If conditions improve, they feel hopeful. If conditions worsen, they feel discouraged. Their state rises and falls with appearances. But if appearances themselves are expressions of deeper assumptions, they spend years fighting effects while ignoring causes. They fight reflections while leaving the source unchanged. But once this principle is understood, a new responsibility emerges, a profound responsibility. Instead of endlessly battling shadows, we begin transforming causes. Instead of asking, "What must I do to become successful?" we begin asking, "Who am I being in imagination right now?" Because every action flows from identity, every identity flows from assumption, and every assumption lives within imagination.
Now we arrive at perhaps the most practical insight of all. Most people know what they want, but very few know how to inhabit it. They wish, hope, wait, postpone. They imagine their desires existing somewhere in the future, but imagination operates in the present and in the present alone. You must picture your desired reality as already possessed, not as "it will happen if I imagine now," but "is now a reality while I am imagining." This is not pretending, denial, ignoring challenges, or self-deception. It is creative participation. The architect mentally walks through the building before construction begins. The musician hears the melody before it is performed. The inventor experiences the possibility before it exists. Likewise, imagination asks us to inwardly experience the state we desire before external evidence appears. So question yourself, how would you think if your desire were already fulfilled? How would you walk, speak, and act? How would you respond to setbacks? And how would you interpret opportunities? How would you see the future? These questions are not merely motivational, they are transformative, because they shift imagination from observation into participation, and participation is creative. When imagination becomes centered in a desired state and begins viewing life from that state, your perception, behavior, attention, and expectation, everything changes.
Possibilities that were previously invisible begin revealing themselves. The future begins influencing the present. The invisible begins shaping the visible. The desired state begins expressing itself through thought, action, attitude, perception, and experience. This is creative living. It is the deliberate selection of a desire from which life will be experienced. And whether we recognize it or not, imagination is always at work, every moment, every day. Imagination is continuously building, continuously shaping, continuously creating. The question is not whether you are imagining. The question is what you are imagining. Are you imagining limitation or possibility, defeat or growth, a future that imprisons you or a future that inspires you? Because imagination does not merely color experience, it helps generate it. So dare to imagine beyond appearances. Dare to question the evidence of the moment. Dare to think from the end rather than merely of it. And dare to inhabit the person you wish to become before the world confirms that identity. For humanity has always become the image it most consistently accepts. Know that the future you seek is not waiting somewhere far away. It has always been waiting within you, waiting within imagination, the invisible world from which every visible world is born. And if there is one truth worth remembering, it is this: the greatest power you will ever discover is not hidden in distant places, future achievements, institutions, circumstances, or other people. It is the creative power operating within you right now. It is your power to imagine, to assume, to perceive, and to become. For in the deepest sense, life is not merely something that happens to us. Life is continuously being shaped through the images we accept as true. Ask yourself, what future am I rehearsing in imagination? And if imagination truly is the creative force behind experience, what would change if you began living from the end you genuinely desire? The answer to that question may change everything. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What state are you imagining now? And what you would like to change if you truly desire something from your heart? Remember, the greatest power you will ever discover is not outside of you. It is the imagination within you.